Hello BibleTouchStone. I thought I'd come back to you on this. If you're anyone else and you just found this video, this is a discussion about the new heavens and the new earth. I'm looking at 2 Peter 3, where Peter tells us that just as the world was destroyed by the flood, so this present world is to be destroyed by fire. I believe the earth will literally be destroyed by fire, not completely, just as the flood did not completely destroy it, but it will be purged and made new. Exactly how, I don't know, but I do expect a physical future fulfillment of this. BibleTouchStone, if I've understood you correctly, you believe the fire has already happened in the destruction of Jerusalem, and we are currently experiencing the new heavens and the new earth now. Don't get me wrong, I believe the total destruction of the Jewish system by God is highly significant. I just don't think that's what Peter is talking about here. If you can just open Bible Gateway for me, 2 Peter 3, the block of text we're talking about is verse 3 to verse 13, and the author opens it by saying, "You must understand that in the last days scoffers will come, scoffing and following their own evil desires. They will say, 'Where is this coming he promised? Ever since our fathers died, everything goes on as it has since the beginning of creation.'" That's how he opens the block. And he concludes the block by talking about the judgment, i.e. when Jesus comes back there will be a judgment of fire. Let me ask you, has Jesus come back yet? No. So it seems obvious to me that this is still future. I noticed that you mentioned Wesley and Clark to support your interpretation that Peter is referring to the destruction of Jerusalem. I'm not really familiar with these guys, but I did look it up on the web. Wesley has notes on the Bible, and he's expecting a future physical fulfillment. And I looked up Clark, and as far as I could tell, Clark was also expecting a future physical fulfillment. Okay, back to the main point. Now you are saying that the new heavens and earth are here now, while I'm expecting a future physical fulfillment. And you are saying Peter is quoting Old Testament prophecies, and the Old Testament language of these prophecies is kind of metaphorical, i.e. we should not expect a physical fulfillment. I would say yes, the author is quoting Old Testament prophecy. He states that in the letter, and in fact I think he's restating the same prophecies. Thing is, does the use of metaphorical language in the Old Testament support a metaphorical or spiritual fulfillment of that prophecy? I don't think so. So you often get prophecies in the Old Testament that are vague or symbolic, but which are fulfilled quite literally in the New Testament. Let's look at some prophecies that we will both agree have been fulfilled. Okay, 1. The divinity of Christ. Old Testament prophecies about God walking the earth could have been thought of as symbolic, but the fulfillment turned out to be 100% literal. 2. The sacrifice of the suffering servant could have been picture language, but again turned out to be totally literal. I think what Peter's doing here is he's taking the Old Testament prophecies that he says he's referring to in his letter, and he's elaborating on them. He's saying this is really going to happen, and there's going to be a physical future fulfillment of this. Okay, that's my take on it anyway. I know I'm not going to convince you. I've just got a little comment on the use of the word elements. You talked about this a little bit, and I'd like to respond to that. You said that I was giving the word a modern meaning. Well, of course, atoms and the such like are a modern concept, but the essence of the usage, the idea of universal material basics from which the world is constructed, is a very old concept. It comes from the Greek philosophers, and it predates the New Testament. So what we need to determine is, what does the word mean in 2 Peter 3? The word in English has several meanings. So for example, I might say the police force contained rogue elements, so I'm using the word to mean members of a group. Or I might say his understanding of the subject was elementary, so now I'm using the word to mean basic or rudimentary. Or I can use it to refer to the physical elements of the universe. The Greek word is the same, it has multiple meanings. The word in Strong's is number 4747. I'm putting Strong's outline of Bible usage up now. As you can see, the material elements definition is in there, just like in English. So how do we determine what the author means in 2 Peter 3? Now at this point you did something interesting. You looked at its use in other books of the New Testament. Now that to me doesn't seem logical at all. Looking for the same word in the same chapter makes good sense. Looking for the same word in the same book makes some sense, but determining the meaning of a word in one book by its use in another book by a different author, that doesn't make sense at all. So I'd think carefully about doing that if I were you. I personally think when we're trying to understand the meaning of a word, the immediate context is king. Think about how we understand new words in English. When we read a word that we don't understand, we get a flavour of the meaning from the sentence that it's in. I know I won't convince you, but I still think that the context in 2 Peter 3 is for a physical future fulfilment. Okay, that's all I wanted to say. Thank you for listening. God bless you and have a nice day.